So I think I got it working in 1080p. I'll check. I've got a little preview of the stream going on YouTube, although it has like a 20-second delay, so takes a little while to update. It looks like 1080p is available, so that's nice. Hopefully hopefully it looks a little nicer. The bitrate was at 2,500. I increased it to 4,000, but I have no idea if either of those numbers are reasonable, so we'll see. So I've got two of the three galaxies near each other. We'll go to M105 next. It looks like it's maybe interacting with another galaxy too, or just really near. This should be a pretty cool picture if we can get it all. So I'll tell my telescope to slew there. Actually, what I should do is while we're pointed at M96, I should sync the telescope. That way the next go-to is a little more accurate, hopefully. But I still have some massive backlash issues, so maybe it won't matter. So it looks like the frame is centered on one of the dim stars out here. I think maybe that one. So, telescope, sync. Yep. Now when I issue the command to M105, hopefully it'll get closer than the last one. This is the wide field camera again. I think maybe there's just a hint of galaxies in there. It's hard to tell with this tiny image scale. But before I had the telescope and the tracking mount, I was only using these wide field cameras, and you can definitely detect the galaxies. You know, I think maybe one of those is it, but it's hard to tell. Usually I would end up live stacking this stream, and then all this noise would average out. Although this is the software that comes with the Rising Tech camera. It's sort of relabeled Tube Sky. This is called Rising Sky. Not very creative relabeling, but we should be able to do live stack. We can try it. It's a lot buggier than SharpCap. I know, like the first frame takes a long time. See, output's still at 0. So hopefully it'll, okay, it's starting to stack. Got like a double or triple image, so that's not good. I don't think this is going well. Abort. Oh, perfect. Yeah, I don't think that's what I want. Average deep sky. Oh well. I only played around in this software for a couple tries before I moved to SharpCap, so I'm not nearly as familiar with this. There are a lot of people on the EAA forum that only use this software, and they have plenty of luck with it. So I wonder, now that I'm on a German equatorial, if I can turn the alignment off, if that will work better or worse. We'll see. I could probably turn the crosshair off too. Still not outputting anything. And I think that's as long as I'll try to get that working. So I'll go back to main scope. Looks like we're on target, or a target. We'll see if that's the one, although there should be other galaxies there if we did move. Yeah, I'm not sure if the telescope moved. I think we're still looking at M96 down there. Not sure why I'm only getting the telescope preview in this window. So I'm going to reissue that move command. Alright, there we go. Alright, let me turn the frame rate down on this. And open up the hand controller. And we'll want, now that the camera is correctly oriented, it should be easier to sort of nudge the telescope. We definitely want to move the view down, which will move the object up in the frame. So this will be fun. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep moving it way, way south. It's going to look pretty bad, but as soon as I tap the north button, everything's going to shift down by half the field of view, just because my backlash is sort of overcorrecting right now. Tap north. Lucky guess. So I also want to move west a little bit. Different. Oh yeah, the east-west is reversed on the sky. I always forget that. I think my mount might be sort of teetering in my the backlash on the declination. You can see everything slides up, and then every now and then it slides down. It's pretty annoying. Tap north one more time. I hope this stuff stays down. Now you can see it flew back up. Now it's back down here. Hopefully it stays down here, because it's all three of them are pretty well centered right now, so we can crank it up to 8 seconds. Check to make sure the histogram sort of moves off the left side. I just restarted the stream. I have a window open on YouTube of my own stream, and it threw an error. So I don't know if you guys also had the error or what. So it looks like it's working now, but it's hard to tell with the 20-second delay. So in case that wasn't playing, I've got the M105 and the 2 other galaxies framed. You can start live stacking it now. The histogram, I think, looked good. Yeah, the peak's completely away from the left. There's the M96, so we'll clear that. And this will start the live stacking again. GC 3389. I bet that would look pretty sweet in the 25 though. Let's see. Okay, so the smallest, dimmest one. So you can see what happens when you push the black level too far. You end up sort of clipping everything. And some people on the forums, they, instead of posting the picture, they'll post a screenshot, which is kind of handy. You can see all of their camera settings and their stretch settings. And a lot of people, there seems to be no best way of doing it. You know, it's all preference. Some people have the black level sort of just where the peak starts, and you get sky color. And then other people are really aggressive with it, and bring it almost to the peak, and then really push the gray, and that sort of accentuates the very faint extended regions. But you get a lot more sort of gritty, grainy noise. Yeah, small one definitely has some texture to it. I gotta remember to apply my dark frame too. I don't think it'll affect the stack too much if I start using it halfway through. So I've got a partial library going, but my camera's not cooled, so you're not super duper accurate. But I think I took this one when it was cold out, so maybe it's within 10 degrees Celsius. And also because the sharp cap doesn't keep track of camera flipping, it might be out of sync with the current orientation, in which case it'll do more harm than good. So. But then again, this IMX290 sensor is really clean. It doesn't have a lot of sort of amp glow or hot pixels, so I might not even notice the difference. So looking at the sort of off-centered vignetting, and then looking at the star shapes. So I've got no coma corrector in here, so you can definitely see the coma on both sides. And it looks like this side has more coma, so maybe I'm something is probably definitely out of whack in my collimation somewhere. So if I could get the flat frame to work, I wouldn't have this, massive vignette and gradient going, and I think the image would respond a lot better to aggressive stretching, because you can see, when I really try and pull out the detail, this one, we're getting a lot of detail, but this one is starting to completely wash out. And if I had something over there, then, be losing a lot of information on it. I'm terrible with the names and numbers, so I gotta check every time. I think I'll save this one. If I had enough pictures and I didn't, well, if I had a good flat frame and I didn't have a gigantic vignette, maybe I could tie all the pictures together into a mosaic. I probably don't have enough overlap. Definitely not. Might try for the Las Vegas object. Although I'll probably want to sync on a bright star nearby for this large of a move. Oh, there's not many bright stars. We'll see if that one stands out enough. And I recently did some work on the motors on my mount and upgraded the power supply, and I had to tune the current, so hopefully I don't lose steps on a large move like this. So far it's been behaving pretty good. Yeah, it's moving. We can check the wide field to see if we crash into something, or if we're in a tree or in my house. So there's definitely a tree there. Looks like we're dodged that bullet. So you can see how far off the mount was. So fortunately, if I go to the sharp cap, still in the live stack. So stop the live stack, go to a short exposure for framing, and there's no bright star, and I would have no clue which direction to move. If ideally I would be able to plate solve. There is a plate solving tool built into SharpCap. What you can do is connect the mount to SharpCap through ASCOM and plate solve, and SharpCap will then sync and re-slew the mount to the target, and it supposedly works great, but I can't get SharpCap to talk to my ASCOM mount. It just locks up and hangs. I really want to get that working at some point. It'd really simplify things. But until then, I have my wide field finder. Let me try and move this. Is this one also mirrored? That's probably close enough to show up in the telescope. Yeah. So I'll turn the crosshairs on in SharpCap, nudge it into the center, and then sync them out. And then from here, we'll issue a go-to to NGC 2300. Make smaller adjustments. Although I think in the process of moving here, I may have done a meridian flip. So I'd have to rotate the views on both cameras in order for north to be up. And again, I gotta go way past the adjustment I need to make in order to account for the backlash. That was lucky. I don't know why it's doing that. Maybe the mount's just so sloppy, it's getting blown around in the wind. It's close enough. So I'm going to sync the telescope to that star. And now from here, I'll issue the go-to to the challenge object. Gets a little squirrely up toward the pole. The telescope's almost in a gimbal lock. It looks like there's a ton of background galaxies. So I don't think the telescope slewed, so I'll try slewing again. Sometimes the remote desktop can be a little sluggish. Like if I go through a menu like that, right click, and if I click the button before the blue highlight appears, nothing happens. So you gotta sort of be patient when you're navigating the menus. So we'll check the telescope camera. It looks like the objects are down there. I can turn the crosshairs off, I don't really need those. I'll probably have to flip the view again. So the go-to east to south has been, or sorry, east to west has been pretty accurate, but my north to south is all over the place due to the backlash. So that looks like it's centered pretty well. There's a, I'm guessing this is NGC 2300, and this is the dimmer, more diffuse one. So now that we're on target, I'll, there it goes again, the mount shifted. Okay. Might be a setting that I have set in the mount for power conservation. It turns off the declination motor after go to, but I'm not sure that would cause it to move. It would just stop. I don't know. Because the worm gear doesn't back drive, so it shouldn't matter whether or not the motor has torque. That looks pretty good, so we'll increase the exposure to 8 seconds, double check the histogram, make sure that it's moved. I've got to rotate the view in order to get north up. I'm just going to confirm that in the star chart. Yeah. It's almost like a check mark. Yep, so 180 degrees rotated. I can fix it by flipping the camera in both ways. That should do. Just check the histogram, it looks good. Start live stacking. Clear out the old one. Make sure I relabel it. So you can see it looks pretty gritty and noisy. So it's definitely way too early to be pushing the histogram that far. I did some work on the focuser today before I started this. I shimmed it. I had shimmed it in the past, but it was still a little loose. And I got some newer, thinner, self-adhesive sort of Teflon tape that I could tape on there and get closer to a perfect fit. So I reshimmed the focuser, and the fit is a lot better, but the heavy vignetting from one side to the other didn't change, unfortunately. But I wonder if I can loosen the 3 mounting bolts and sort of jiggle it around, since I can't move the secondary mirror because the collimation screws are sort of fused. Or I bite the bullet and try and get those screws out and replace them, potentially destroying the secondary support. Yeah, I can definitely see the little background galaxies. Spattered in the background. I think my focus might be shifting. The stars are starting to get really soft. Usually my coma isn't that bad. I might have to go out there and touch up the focus. To do that, I have to break the remote desktop, and I'll probably pause the stream or put up a full screen picture or something. But I've been really liking Carte du Ciel. You can add a ton of catalogs to it, and the catalogs can go pretty deep. So now I have, all those teeny tiny little background galaxies are listed, and if I increase the number of deep sky objects shown, it can get pretty crazy. So the white rectangle represents where the telescope thinks it is, and the red one's just the center of my view. It can get pretty confusing as they stack up and get close. This galaxy is pretty neat. I guess it was, I saw in Roger's description that it was a ARP galaxy. I really like the ARP peculiar galaxies. I want to sort of use the system to observe more of them, although a lot of them are absolutely teeny tiny, so not so great of a match for my telescope's wide field of view. I observed this with my color camera maybe a month ago. Let me get this so it's not completely blocking the view. See if I can pull up that picture. Part of the reason I chose to observe with the monochrome camera tonight was to see if I can get any more detail out of this one, because it's such a textured and detailed galaxy, and it's, at first glance it looks like a spiral, but it's just all over the place, fractured and shattered, and the arms aren't continuous and they sort of intersect. It looks pretty cool. There we go. Pretty close. You can see a hot pixel. This was, I think this was the night that I figured out the dark frame mirror image issue. So fortunately this picture everything's right, but a lot of the pictures from that night are sort of backwards and got messed up. Yeah, these ones you can very clearly see. Wish it wouldn't open full screen all the time. You can see the amp glow on this side, but the dark frame is subtracting it from that side because SharpCap wasn't keeping track of the flip. I did see on the SharpCap forum that they might fix that and update in the future. That'd be pretty awesome. I do like the sort of faint diffuse galaxies with this camera. I found that the sort of dynamic range of this particular camera is pretty shallow. So in a lot of the sort of concentrated or objects with a large high dynamic range, it really blows out in the center. I lose a lot of the information. But this one is just wacky looking. It's all over the place. See if I can pull up a reference image of it. I can never remember the numbers. So 2276. Oh, this is cool. Looks like there was a supernova in this galaxy in 2016. See if I can zoom in. That's not very helpful. Trying to get a this website is fantastic, rochesterastronomy.org. They list all of the current visible supernova, and with the EAA system like this is really great for hunting them down. It's a lot of fun sort of looking for transient astronomical events. So it looks like all of these people have imaged it. I'm trying to find a good image. So this is an image of when the supernova was occurring, so it looks like it happened right about there. I don't see any sign of it now, but this was 3 years ago, so plenty of time to fade. Actually, let's check the website, see if there's a current supernova going on. Oh, yeah, this gets a little funny with remote desktop. Yeah, doesn't like that. So these are the current supernova occurring now. They're listed in brightness. So you can see NGC2 3254. You can try and see if that's up for us currently. $32.54. So let's go to the star chart. NGC 3254. Okay, that's not. Oh, it's back where we started from, up in Leo, but it's worth a shot. I like trying to hunt for them. We'll see. I'll give it a try. A lot of bright stars to sync up to on the way. All right. I'll take one last look at NGC 2300. I want to see if I can stretch the histogram to get, or sorry, the the gray level to see if I can get any more extension on NGC 2300. Oh yeah. I mean, this picture isn't as pretty, but the details a lot easier to see. I really wish I had a flat frame working so that I didn't have to deal with this vignetting and really improve the appearance of these pictures. You know, I can either get one galaxy looking good or the other one because there's such a strong gradient between the two. So I think I'll save here. Now let's see if we can hunt down a supernova. Change the camera back to 2 seconds. Exit the live stack. Alright. I'm going to issue a go-to command to a nearby bright star. Go. Yeah, the telescope's moving. We'll go to the wide field. I'll probably have to use this to get on target. Hand controller. Oh yeah, I never rotated this camera, so it's still oriented correctly. But in sharp cap, I'll have to rotate this camera. I'll keep doing that. So what I did is I clicked the internet, but this is the remote desktop computer out there, so it has no internet connection. What I meant to do is this. I just want to keep tabs on the stream, make sure it's still running. Alright, so we're not too far from that star. I'll still nudge it to the center, just so the go-to is a little more accurate. Wrong way. Or was that the right way? It's hard to tell with all the backlash. Wrong way. We'll see if it stays there. Mount's been flopping around. I can tell my focus is a little out. I've been noticing on, I don't know if it's this particular Newtonian. There we go, see how it jumped out of the way. Alright, this is driving me nuts. good enough. So I synced to the bright star. Now I'm going to slew to hopefully this galaxy, and hopefully we'll be able to detect a supernova in it. It doesn't look like the telescope moved. Still not moving. Let's give it plenty of time to think about it. Make sure remote desktop catches up. Still nothing. I'm still connected. I've got the green. Where does it say? Maybe I'll reconnect. Perfect. Gosh, dang it, that opened a second. Duh. We'll see if the... No, it wouldn't be the end of the world to close it. So this is a new instance of the program. Try and reconnect to the telescope. So down here saying telescope not connected. I'll have to keep an eye out for that. The mount is only connected with Bluetooth, so I wonder if there's some intermittent connection there. Alright, so Close pointed to Leo. So that's a good sign. The telescope showed up. There's 3254. See if it's okay. Now it's saying no connection up there. Why not? It's all green. Wonder if my mount controller is hung up. It's just not talking with the computer. I'll try. Slew, please. There we go. It's moving. We'll see if it's close. Just gonna line up the view with the telescope. That way I can use the window here to help nudge the camera along if we're far off. Looks like we definitely got something right there. Don't need the crosshairs. So 2 bright stars, another star over there. I forget if I flipped the camera or not yet. So yes, I have to flip the camera. So 2 stars on the left side instead of the right side. There we go. I'm going to try and nudge it a little closer to the center, but we definitely got it right there. Is that it down there? I wonder if the mount tilted in the declination again. Just to be sure, I'm going to go up and then down. Yeah, there we go. It flew off screen. I'll see if it stays on screen. Nope. See if it stays. Come on. I've never seen the mount do this before, and so I wonder if it has to do with there's an option in OnStep where you can turn off the declination motor after a go-to. And I never used it in the past, but after increasing the current and voltage going to the motors, I turned it on to try and conserve power because I intend to run this off a battery sometime. So I wonder if that's what's giving me trouble here, or if it's just horrible backlash that I haven't tuned out. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go way north and then come down to it and see if that keeps it behaving. Apparently not. Just stay. Son of a gun. See if it stays. So I ended up purposely overshooting way to the north and then just moving back south 1 just to see if the mount will stay flopped in that direction. So we'll just watch it for a little while to see if it's stable. So this is the page, I think, let's see. So the supernova will be there. I think that's the core of the galaxy right there. There's a bright star here, and we might even be able to see the supernova right now. There's a pixel right there. Hard to tell if it's a hot pixel or noise at this point, but after we live stack, it seems like it's behaving and stable enough. So we'll turn the exposure up to 8 seconds. Just double check the histogram. Looks good. Zoom in a little bit. Live stack. Hope the mount stays stable. We'll clear it. Whoa, that's way up there. It's definitely the supernova right there. So I want to get the name. "2019 NP." This was NGC 3254. The motors are steppers, so they're a little finicky. I had poorly selected stepper motors previously, and I changed them to smaller ones that my stepper drivers could actually drive. I think the motors seem to be behaving well. Yesterday I was troubleshooting them, playing around with different, I have a little boost converter for increasing the voltage that's going to the stepper drivers. So I was playing around with the voltage supply to the stepper drivers and the stepper motor current limit. Let me try and move this over here and this over here. That way we can look at it and also learn about it at the same time. Come on. I keep doing that. Wrong computer to open the internet in. Alright, so from this picture, it appears to be that star that's the supernova. Looks like other people have imaged it too. But I'm going to try and see if I can get a reference picture. Whoop. That's older than the supernova, just to double check. So in this picture, it looks like that star is there, but I don't know how old this one is. Oh, duh. We'll just use, see if it pops up in this. Nope. Oh no, there it is. And I'll turn off the stars. And the marker, nope. Yeah, so the images that are in this program come from DSS, I think, so it's a much older survey. So this picture almost definitely predates the supernova. And it looks like those three stars are in this picture, so I don't think that is the supernova that I'm seeing right there. I'm going to keep doing that. Yeah, I think you're right. I didn't think it would be a problem, but I think it is. Because even when I was using my old stepper motors that weren't properly driven, I would have trouble with doing go-tos. They would stall out and mess up. But I never had this shifting backlash issue where you go to and then 10 seconds later it shifts off. So I think I'll be turning that setting back on. Hopefully that'll fix it. Alright, so this is the page. all the images. I'm going to see if we can find a image that's very clearly marked. Dates, Hubble Space Telescope. Oh, ooh. That's pretty cool. Still not sure if this bright spot is a supernova or if it's this. Let's try and stretch it a little more. Okay, how many times can I do that? See if I can find another picture. I mean, I doubt we'll get a better picture than Hubble Space Telescope. So everyone seems to be marking that this star is the supernova. But in the old DSS picture that's in Carte du Ciel, I'm also seeing that star. So I don't know if these images are sort of recently gathered, because it looks like that supernova went all the way back to January when it was discovered. If we look back to the, oh, god damn it. I'm just going to leave this on. Oh no, it's going to destroy my RAM. I got to remember I have the internet is on the terminal computer that I'm using inside, but I continue to hit the internet on the outdoor computer, which isn't loading. Yeah, I can see the fainter star in the super high resolution Hubble picture. It actually looks like a region of intense star forming. If I can get it back. Almost looks like a super bright nebula right there. Oop. That's not what I want. There we go. So I think this bright area, I can just see it right there. So yeah, we definitely have the supernova. It's really cool. What would be very cool is if I had an R-spec diffraction grating, and if we could take a spectra of it and compare it to the stars neighboring it. But Probably need a more aperture for that, but that would be extremely cool to do. Almost did it again. So, nice thing about this site is it lists sort of tentative supernovae that haven't been confirmed. I guess the way they confirm it is by taking the spectra and seeing that it is a supernova, but when they do, you can actually access the results. That's pretty cool. Type 1A. Very cool. I can see if, God, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to remove the temptation of clicking that button. There we go, problem solved. Let's see if we can find another supernova. Oop. So that was approximately mag 14.5, and definitely no problem getting it. Although I assume these UGC galaxies are much smaller. Yeah, only 2.2 arc second by 1.7. My, oh no, it was arc minutes. My pixel scale for this camera is like 1.3 arc second per pixel. So it'd be pretty small. But then again, if the supernova is a similar brightness to the one we just saw, then it will probably stand out. We'll give it a shot. UGC 7534. Bummer. I don't think, maybe I don't have the UGC catalog in here. Can see if it goes by any other name. Or we'll just pick one that's NGC. Well, this one's a little bit dimmer, so it'll be a little more challenging. Oh, that's a pretty small galaxy too. Actually, maybe that page had it. So I've got the PCG stuff. I think I've installed all these ultra deep catalogs, but I don't think they're indexed for searching. So maybe that's the problem. Or I think you have to install the indices separately. UTC 40645. 40645. Come on. Yes. $75.34, so that's the one. I'll probably go to this, just align, mount, get it all synced up, and then we can do the short hop. Hopefully the telescope's still connected. Yeah, it's moving. Ooh, might be. Oh. The backlash is out of control. Because in the on-step settings, when the motor powers off, I think it takes like 10 seconds to do it. And that was jittering around with only 1 second or so. So I wonder if it's just mechanical backlash. Alright, so there's the old stack. Go down to 2 seconds. Zoom out, put the crosshairs on. See if we can move this without. Hey, the letter 4. This observing session is brought to you by the letter 4. The number 4. It's late on tire. We'll see how long it stays there. And I'll sync. And now we'll go to not connected. Telescope not connected. Wonder if it dropped connection after the sync. I remember seeing a setting somewhere in here for reducing the amount of communication and checks that it can cause issues if there's too much back and forth talk. So I wonder if that's what's going on, because I haven't had trouble with the Bluetooth connection before. Although, one thing that is different than previous time is I currently have my backpack sitting on top of the computer, so the Bluetooth antenna's probably fighting a little more than it normally does. Oh yeah, I gotta reconnect the telescope. Reconnect. Everything happy. Still green. No error. Slew, please. And the magic word. I wonder if we could frame it to also get these galaxies in there. That might be pretty cool. Alright, not a lot of bright stars in this field, so it'll be a little more challenging. So I've got, look for patterns. We've got 3 stars in a row here. An L. Sort of a right triangle. Turn the stars back on. So there's the 3 stars in a row. So I think I have to flip the view. Yeah. That should make more sense. Alright, so how close are we? Pretty close. So it's right on that bright star that is pretty much dead center in our view. So it should be around there. And I think I can see some of those faint galaxies. I don't think I'm going to nudge the camera just because my outer field is looking pretty poor. There's a lot of coma and all that vignetting. So I'll try and keep this one centered. But yeah, we can definitely see those that other group of galaxies. Let's see. NDC 4362, 4364. Still no sign of this one, but it was, let's see. See if we can get some info or brightness on it. But before I do that, let's get this thing stacking so we don't lose time. Clear. Supernova. EAA. Maybe see something there. Just above the star. Very, very, very dim. Smaller than I thought it would be. Yeah. Yeah, it's probably too obscure to have a picture on here. But we can look at other people's images. Definitely have something there. I'll have to see if maybe one of these stars is the supernova. So it looks like that one. I wonder if this galaxy is an ARP. It looks pretty strange. Alright, so I think this is a Simbad picture. So it looks like it's older. You can definitely see the bright star, a star here, a star there, and the sort of concentrated brightness. And we've got this star, the bright star, that one, that one. So there's two stars here, where in the old picture there's only one. And in this one, they're saying the outer one is a supernova. Sometimes I play with these noise reduction and sharpening, but it's hard to tell if it actually improves anything. For the purposes of detecting a supernova, I think the picture's good enough. I wonder if that's anything. Looks like a long, slender brightness there. Could just be noise. Or maybe an artifact is stacking, but it definitely looks like something. Try and see where we're looking. Yeah. Hey Tom, let's see if, so we've hunted down two supernova. We're going down the list and it only gets more and more difficult as we go down. So we'll see if Maybe we'll try and get one more. Oop. Try this one, it's a little more recent, although it's darker. NGC Galaxy might be a little bigger and brighter than the PGC or UGC. So 3304. Not too far. Let me just double check. We might have to do a meridian flip to get there. That's fine. So I think I'll issue a go to here. Telescope looks connected. Well, it's going to go straight for it. Let's see if my mount crashes. Wide field, center it up. Just bouncing all over the place in declination. See if that gets centered. Probably good enough to be in telescope. So exit the live stack. There it is. Put the crosshairs on. Oh yeah. Decrease the exposure down to 2. Yeah, 1 is bright enough. See if it behaves. Nope. I really got to get that sorted out. It's very annoying. That's good enough for alignment. So synchronize. I'll see if the mount loses connection this time when I sync. It's all happy. That was the Galaxy, right? Yep, 3304. It looks very dim from this picture. Can barely even tell. But if that's a discovery picture, maybe it's brightened a lot since then. And hopefully we've got that in frame. So I can see the nearby brighter galaxy there, so it looks like we're pretty close, if not on the money. I think that might be it. The previous one was it was this one. I think that's the magnitude at discovery, not necessarily the current mag. No, they're saying 14.2. Although it's coming back down now. 15.4 was the previous one that we imaged. I should be able to pull up the pictures of them. Oh no, I'm on my local computer. There we go. Now we're on the computer out there. So I think it was this star right there was a supernova. And then before that one, we looked at, this is the first supernova we hunted, and it was this star right there is a supernova. This was the brightest one, top of the list, I think. All right, so back to sharp cap. So I've got bright galaxy there, and a sort of elongated, sort of north-northeast galaxy. Turn the crosshairs off, don't need them. So I think that's the galaxy right there. So we'll crank up the exposure to 8 seconds. Definitely. So we'll start the live stack. So this is the old live stack, still in memory. There's the supernova there. And I'm wondering if this is something real. I don't know if it's showing up on the stream, but there's sort of a bright, very faint vein of brightness running through this star. I wonder if it's just a diffraction artifact or reflection or something. So we'll clear the stack. Make sure I updated the name. No. So it looks like there might be a point of brightness, sort of maybe 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock from the very center. I wonder if maybe that's it. As more frames come into the stack, it should get a little clearer. We'll pull up see if we can pull up a reference image. So this one is 15.9 magnitude. We'll see. So it looks like maybe in this picture it's like 10 o'clock from the galaxy's core. So it might be that. Here's hopefully a couple images of it. I'm not sure if these pictures are reversed. Load a couple more. Yeah, I'd say that's the supernova from this picture. There's some faint background galaxies too. I think my focus is definitely slowly shifting over the night. So one thing I'd like to get as a motorized, or build a motorized focuser either. In the long run, what I'd really like to do is to convert my 10-inch Dob to see if I can get focal reduced down to like f3 with this camera, and then build a motorized alt-az mount for it. I think that'd be pretty awesome to be able to get these exposures in like 1/4 of the time with a little more image scale. But for that, I'd definitely be building in a motorized focuser. SharpCap has some focusing tools where you essentially just click a button and it steps through and measures the star sharpness and automatically finds best focus. So I'll save this. That's a pretty nice galaxy down there too. And that's way off center too, so there's a lot of coma. I bet it'd be pretty nice centered up. Let's take a look at some flagship objects. Just want to check. One thing I wish this star chart program had was displaying the meridian. It doesn't do that so well. So that looks fine. Let's see if we can get to M101. This might be in a tree, so I'll have to check the wide field camera. Oh, is that a satellite going by? That's cool. So I think I can see the galaxy in in this view. So I'm going to hide the crosshair. It might be right there. Not far. It's probably in the telescope's field of view. So we'll... Oh. Oh, I left it running when I moved. So exit the live stack. Yeah, we definitely have it in frame. I'm going to just nudge it so it's a little closer to center. I hope the mount hit. Oh, of course. We'll see if it goes back. My mount, I think there are two issues compounding. Is I have an enormous amount of backlash in my declination, and I've enabled some settings in my mount's motor drive that, in an attempt to preserve battery power, my declination motor shuts off when it's not used. So I think it's not a winning combination. You can see it's bouncing in the declination quite a bit, almost by the entire field of view. It's very frustrating. So see if it just did. Nope, just stay. All right. Well, if it stays there, it's good enough. I think it's as close as I dare get it with the mount acting up. So I'll go back to 8-second exposures. And we'll start the live stack. I have to purge the old one. So you can see the first picture that comes in with the aggressive histogram stretch. It's really sort of gritty and noisy. But as more and more pictures roll in, it should get smoother and smoother. Such a pretty galaxy. And I think it has, a lot like M33, it has some sort of way far off detached star-forming regions. I wonder if that's one of them. Yeah, NGC 5477. Sort of a little lump of the galaxy way, way out there. I wonder if it's a little mini galaxy or if it's a nebula. Or dwarf galaxy, couldn't think of the name. Yeah, if only my flat frames were working. I'll save that. There's a lot of good stuff in this region, so you can hop around. It's a great thing with the live stacking, is it's sort of really fast and loose. You start and stop and hop around. Check out M51. So exit the live stack. We'll try and frame it. It's right there for sure. Now let's see if my mount will behave. Please. It's good enough. Might go a little farther up, just to get some of the extension of the larger galaxy. Of course. Got greedy on my mount. Thanks for tagging along. Your feedback is really, really helpful. It's hard for me to see what's going on the other end. Have a good night. I should probably pack up pretty soon too. I gotta go to work tomorrow. I love monochrome. That detail's so great. That's just 40 seconds. I wonder if it'll show up in the wide field camera, since it's fairly bright. Turn the crosshair off. Yeah, it's definitely there. All 10 pixels of it. Just for fun, we'll see if we can get it to live stack. Last time it didn't go so well. So this is the software that comes with the camera, but I never spent a lot of time with it because I moved to SharpCap pretty quick. It's pretty buggy. It seems to be live stacking. You can see the noise is starting to fade away, and you can definitely see sort of the diffuse glow with two concentrations, one larger than the other. Yeah, and it lines up with the telescope's pointing. Yeah, it'd be fun to do a talk. If it were clear out, it'd be really cool if I could set up the telescope outside. But that's just asking for trouble. Nothing would go right. But it's so when I started with this camera stuff, all I had was all I was using was the little security camera lens, just like this, with on an Altaz tripod. So like this was my view of M51 for the longest time. So over the winter, motorizing the Vixen Super Polaris and getting the camera working in the telescope, I've been able to move up to this. So it's just been an incredibly fun time. It's just so immediately rewarding, this sort of rapid live imaging or live stacking. It's a lot of fun. I wish I could have got the flat frame correction working in SharpCap. There's it's built in, but for whatever reason it didn't save. I made one, but it didn't save. I would have got rid of a lot of the massive vignetting. I think, I'm not sure because it's all very new to me, but I think the YouTube might save a recording of this, and I might be able to like chop little segments out of it so we could cut a little 4-minute segment of a live stack out just as a little demo. but then I'd have to hear myself talk, and then that'd probably sound terrible. So I don't have any old flats. I just today, before I put the telescope outside, I use SharpCap to capture a flat and save it to my hard drive. But for whatever reason, when I went to load the flat, it wasn't there. So that was a bummer. Because I've got my dark frame folder. But let's see if I can stretch this a little more now that we have more information. Sort of the more frames you have, the smoother the noise gets, and the more aggressive you can sort of bully the histogram around. I'll save it like that. Do you have any requests or objects you'd like to see? The telescope I'm using, actually I've got a picture of it. It's a Meade Mini Light Bridge 114, so it's only 114 millimeter aperture. It's the same telescope as the Orion Star Blast 4.5. It's just painted a different color. So it's the same telescope that's used in the library telescope program. And I've got it sitting on a Vixen Super Polaris mount head that I got at the Stellaflame flea market. And over the fall, I worked through a project called OnStep. It's an online open source project for motorizing or any mount using sort of off-the-shelf electronic pieces. And then some guy writes all the software and it just works. M108, M109. Let's see. Oh yeah, I see it there. Oh, it's there. See if I can get it centered. Now usually my mount doesn't behave this poorly, but this past weekend and couple days I've been doing a lot of work on it. I haven't tuned it up at all, so I haven't readjusted any of the backlash, and I think I have a setting that is not ideal, where it cuts power to the motor that's not in use. I think that might be part of the reason it's flopping around. on. Let's see if it'll stay there. So the camera is it's a Rising Tech, which is essentially a relabeled Tube Tech, which is a Chinese camera manufacturer. It uses the same exact sensor from a ZWO ASI 224. So it's a little Sony CMOS sensor that has incredibly low read noise. So with the very low read noise, you don't need a lot of signal to overcome it to have a usable sort of signal to noise ratio. The only thing is the shot noise, the random shot noise is pretty high when you crank the gain, but with live stacking and averaging, the shot noise, the random part, goes away. So it's like almost feels like cheating. And the mount is using, it can use Arduino. It was initially written for Arduino, so you just buy like because of 3D printers, the stepper motors are dirt cheap now, and the stepper drivers are really cheap, and they all have sort of a standardized little breakout board package so they're very modular. So you just buy like an Arduino controller or a couple stepper drivers, and what I did is I wired it together on perf board, but the guy that runs the OnStep project, he adapted it so that you can just go out and buy the control board for a 3D printer, which already has all that stuff bundled together, wired up, ready to go, and all you do is you reflash it and you put a telescope control firmware instead of a 3D printer firmware on it, and it's like ready to go. So for like 30 bucks, or with the motors maybe 50, 60 bucks, you could have, you know, the electrical and software parts of a mount ready to go, and you just have to come up with a way to connect it to the inputs by pulleys or gears or whatever. I think the Starlight Express might be a CCD, but I don't know. I know a lot of people on the Cloudy Nights EAA forum still use the Starlight Express. I'm using NEMA 17. I originally had motors that were still NEMA 17 but too big. They required too much amperage, and the little stepper driver couldn't provide enough, and I was having issues with it stalling during slews, especially meridian flips. But I went out and purchased properly sized stepper motors that they draw less amperage, but because the driver can actually drive them properly, even though they're lower power, they still provide more torque at speed, ironic or sort of counterintuitively. And I also had to I have a voltage boost converter, so it takes the 12 volts from my battery and it boosts it up to like 24 volts or 32 volts, just because it lets the stepper drivers run the motors a little faster. And in my first iteration, it was improperly sized. Mine was too small. So when the mount would start slewing, not only were the stepper drivers incapable of feeding the motors enough current, but my boost converter would brown out and starve the drivers of voltage. It was a mess. So this is the first time running with the new beefier power supply, or the voltage booster, and the smaller motors. And so that swapping that, doing that change, I think, is part of the reason it's acting up, is I never tuned the backlash at all. But the other part is, in order to conserve some power, I turned on a setting that I haven't previously used, where it shuts off the declination when it's not being used. There's no encoders, it's all open loop. So when I lose steps, I'm really in trouble. If I had sharp cap plate solving working, then it wouldn't be such a big deal if I lost steps. I could always plate solve and then sync, and I could get right back to it. But right now, I'm having trouble getting on step ASCOM and sharp cap to all talk to each other. For whatever reason, sharp cap locks up when I try and connect my mount to it. You can, if it was behaving, I could connect my mount directly here, and then I can control it and nudge from here and spiral search. And then there's a button just for plate solve. It'll plate solve, sync, and then re-slew and recenter the target all automatically. But oops, I left this thing running a little too long, I think. Look at all the satellites. Wow. Look at all the traces. Are those? I don't know. No, I think that's just artifacts. But you can definitely see. Oh yeah, because this stack was started when we were looking at M51, and I've slewed to M109 without stopping this, so it's all sorts of confused. We'll turn it off, and we should get the live view of M109 area. That sounds like an awesome project. There's a really cool 3D printer made by Monoprice called the Monoprice Mini Delta. So it's a Delta type printer. So it uses 3 vertical rails. But the really neat thing about it is I'm pretty sure you can take the moving component and flip it upside down, and you can, instead of having the nozzle come down to the bed, you just have like a perfect 3-dimensional robot that protrudes out of the printer, out of the top of it. And then you could just sort of mount that cage anywhere. I had a project I wanted to do for doing macro photography stacking, where I wanted to put using the astronomy camera and a little telecentric macro lens, I wanted to mount it to a 3D printer gantry and then do focus stacking, where you take a picture and then inch the whole camera in the Z direction, so that your very thin plane of focus, you get a picture at all the different depths, so that your entire field of view is in focus once you process it. And then with the 3D printer, you nudge it to the side and you do it again, and you just keep nudging it, and you build like this huge panorama that's also focus stacked. So you get these like really cool looking gigapixel macro pictures that almost look like electron microscopes. But I never went anywhere with that project. Instead, I built the telescope mount. So let me see if I can get a picture of the Mini Delta. This thing looks really neat, as far as I mean, for dirt cheap, 150 bucks. But I bet if you basically if you mount these arms backwards so that they go up, and then remove this top plate, then the effector would sort of go out beyond the machine, and then you could sort of use that as a modular robot or pick and place or something. Yeah, this stack's coming along. There's a lot of really fine detail. We'll see if I can stretch any more out. It's a very cool galaxy, sort of mottled and mysterious. I'll save it. Check out M108. Oh, that wasn't. Dang it. I got them mixed up. Before I forget, I'm going to relabel those before I get really confused. Definitely got something in the center there. I'm going to see if I can move it up a little bit, but my mount might protest. I'm not familiar with that. What day? Ooh, is that a biological printer? Oh yeah, for sample prep, that'd be perfect. That's really cool. I wonder if my mount stopped tracking. Seems to be. Says it's tracking, but I don't believe it. If I'm very close to the meridian, then I may have run into a limit. It does look like I'm pretty close to the meridian. Try M102. Let's see. I think the brackets are similar for the Great Polaris and the. Actually, I can show. So this is my desktop inside. I can fire up. Where is it? There we go. Get that going. I've got the CAD files for the motor brackets and the enclosure for on-step. And on the OnStep user group, there's where is it? They have like a user showcase. But I have all little motors. You fit a NEMA 17 in there, and then bolts. You can clamp it. At least for the Vixen Super Polaris. And then I have little covers that go on, and a nice little circular connector that's all weatherproof. And then I made this box for it. So all the electronics sort of just sit in there. So before this, everything literally just lived in a Tupperware with holes drilled in it. So this is a huge step up for me. Once I got it to the point that it worked, it just sort of all progress halted as I started to use it and have fun with it. And this is like, I think it was Tuesday, I finally got this printed and packaged. Still not tracking. All right. I'm gonna see if it will slew here. All right, looks like it's doing a meridian flip right now. Yeah, looks like it's still moving too, which is a good sign. In the past, the meridian flip has always been challenging for the stepper drivers. I think before I had it set up so that when you do the flip, it goes back to polar home. Oh wow, you can see it right there. There's M81, M82, or I might have it backwards. But this is neat. Just using the finder scope, we can nudge it into view. I think 8 seconds might be too much. We'll probably blow up the center of it. Yeah. Maybe 4 seconds. The histogram's a little iffy with a little tiny piece of the peak being cut off, but usually I end up stretching it to this point anyway, so I don't think we'll lose anything. We'll start the live stack. Yeah, hot off the press. Yeah, the 3D print. It's the anti-do strategy. Yeah. So the I don't have encoders, but the OnStep project does support putting an encoder on the right ascension for doing periodic error correction, where you can record the periodic error and then sort of replay it and subtract it as it's running. But with the live stacking and my short exposures and my low arc second, or my low image scale, it wasn't worth it for me to do it. Because the whole live stacking process is pretty forgiving when you can break the exposures down to little 8-second chunks. And then the excuse me, the alignment and stacking takes care of the periodic error over the long term. I can check out a couple globular clusters. I haven't really tried those. Tried many with this setup. There's a where is it? There it is, drift graph. It's kind of like periodic error. It shows you shows you how much SharpCap had to shift the pictures. So you can see I've got sort of runaway drift, but it's only 6 pixels over 4 minutes. There's my house. These are 0.9 step, or degrees per step. I think I might see Is that the glob? But they're only 0.1, or sorry, 0.9 amp motors. The little stepper drivers I use, they can technically drive 2 amps, but they're usually happier below 1.4 amps. Hey, wow, I got it. That looks really nice. This is just crazy. It's just bouncing all over the place. I haven't hit a button. I wonder if it's just like teetering right on the verge of balance and just being blown around by the wind, or what. Yeah, let's see if it will stay happy on this side. I think I might leave it at 2 seconds just so I don't blow up the core and so I can resolve all the stars. So I'll start the live stack, and with short little 2-second exposures will really accumulate data fast. That looks really nice. I'm glad that the core isn't lost. It's still resolved. So this was M53. We might be able to get M13. It looks like it'll be a little low to the east. It might be behind my garage. I really want to make, in this star chart program, you can program in your own personal horizon. So like you could go to your backyard and map out alta azimuth of like where your trees and your house and all that stuff is, and then this brown horizon would actually, you know, follow the shape of whatever you map. It'd be really handy. So I think it might be over my garage. You can take a look at it. I want to check out M3 before we go that way. Looks like a couple stars, like 3 or 4 stars in a tight little line there too. It worked out really well. Almost looks like we didn't even move. One glob replaced with another glob, similar size. I did take a picture of it. I should have it in the folder still. Oh. Oh no, there it is. So this was today, and I used my color CMOS camera about a month ago in Maine, and I got this one. So I really, tonight, the reason I'm using the monochrome tonight was to hopefully get higher sort of resolution and detail on this galaxy here. It's a really weird one. It's very lumpy and irregular. That's pretty neat. And tons of tiny little faint background galaxies sort of scattered all the way through the field. Really cool. Come on, just stay in one spot. That looks good. So that was M53, and I've cleared the stack, and this is M3. Yeah. I hope M13 is above the horizon. Thanks for tuning in. I think I'm gonna pack up soon too. I gotta go to work tomorrow. Have a good night. It's right in the tree. It's almost up. Dang. You can definitely see it in the wide field finder though. There was a, ooh, I think that was a meteor. That was too fast to be a plane. I think that was a shooting star.